Hello and welcome to Leroy Gaming, where today I'm providing you with another video for Outriders. This is based on the demo that is currently available. This game will be coming out on multi-platforms, including PC and consoles, in early April. But for now, what I wanted to provide you with in this video is a deep dive of basically the Pyromancer's class node tree. So we're going to do a deep dive here. This is how I generally like to do all my videos. If you're new to my channel, a bit of an OCD nature, look at all the nodes. So if you want to plan out your video, you want a little feedback based on what I'm seeing here, this is the video for you. So check it out. Also check out my other videos that I've done for Technomancer and the other classes if you want to see their class node trees. So without further ado, let's take a look at the Pyromancer. So two main things here right off the bat. The melee skill for the Pyromancer is going to inflict burn on enemies within a small radius, and his healing mechanic is you will recover health whenever enemies marked by your skills are killed. Marked is just a cute way of saying that have been damaged by your skills. And so at the bottom here, it has a continual tracking of your buffs to kind of track things for you as you put in levels. Looking at this at level 1, so obviously it's not going to be anything fancy, but baseline you receive additional 10% anomaly power. Anomaly power is basically skill power. You're going to see weapon damage and anomaly power damage increases. So just think weapons or skills. Now skills mark damage enemies for 15 seconds. Killing a mark heals you by 24% of your maximum health baseline. So unlike the Technomancer, for example, that just does continual healing based on a percentage of damage due, this is kind of all or nothing. So you got to mark it. Now do note that just it says killing a marked target. Now I'm going to assume that since you mark it, hopefully this heals if other people kill the enemy as well. If not, this will be horrible for multiplayer, but I'm assuming that's not the case here, and just you got to make sure you mark him. So you're going to want to be tagging as many enemies as you can in multiplayer so that you can keep topping up on health. All right, there's going to be 3 trees: Ashbreaker, Firestorm, and Tempest. Now you can cross over. We're going to start at the top and work our way down, but notice here there's going to be always 2 opportunities to cross over. Now you will only get a total of 20 basically class points by the time you hit max level. So as you can see here, you're not going to get to do even close to all of this, a third at best or so. So let's get started. Your first node is not optional if you're going north. Infernal weapon, there's no choice here. It's going to increase your weapon damage by 8%. Then you do have a choice. Now do note you can technically pick up both of these, so it's not either or. But as you're trying to work towards the capstones efficiently, you may not necessarily want to pick them up just because you're going to run out of points for the really cool, bigger nodes here. So the top one is Moths to the Flame, increases weapon leech by 5%. So this is interesting because you don't get any baseline leech, but this implies if it's anything like the Technomancer, just basically now if you take this, 5% of all damage you do with guns, it's going to heal you for that. Reduce immobilized skills cooldown by 15%. Those are the icons as you see at the bottom that are affected by it. So that's pretty straightforward. Then Mark of the Anomaly, increasing your weapon damage by 10% against marked enemies. So again, it plays into that mark enemies as much as you can and then damage them, not the other way around. Assault Master increases your assault weapon damage by 20%. And again, unique, as I've noticed, uniquely to the top trees so far, when I've seen, you get these abilities to increase the drop chance for certain types of weapons. So in this case, you get the option to get 12% more assault weapons dropping, and this includes assault rifles, light machine guns, submachine guns, and double guns. Now, moving on over, you have an option of Blood Boil, increase your armor piercing by 15%, or enemies afflicted with ash receive 10% more damage. Okay, I'm assuming that's some sort of effect that hasn't been noted here. That's probably applied by one of your fire abilities. Next, you get mark of the anomaly again. So this is the second time it's kind of mandated. So an extra 10% weapon damage against marked targets. If you go up here, you get hot situation. So activating your immobilize skills increases your anomaly power by 45% for 10 seconds. That's pretty powerful. So again, your skills are going to get significantly more powerful after using an immobilize skill. Next, you get an option of conflagration. Increase your resistance piercing by an additional 15%. So you can start building up some pretty decent piercing resistance here, or bypassing piercing, or my goodness, bypassing resistances. And then Curse of the Pompai, Ash afflicted on enemies lasts 15% longer. Next, again, another mark of the anomaly. So now you could, up to this point, get 30% total damage against marked targets. And you can either choose to stack Assault Master and Sniper Master if you want to diversify your weapons, or you can choose to specialize one. This one increases your sniper weapon damage by 40%. Snipers drop 12% more often, and this includes marksman rifles, automatic sniper rifles, and bolt action rifles. Now, do note, this is a 40% damage bonus. Assault Master was only 20%. Next, you can get another tier of Blood Boil, another 15% armor piercing. Or you can just increase Infernal Weapon, increase your weapon damage by a flat 8%. Okay. So obviously, if something has high armor, this is going to do more net damage to it. But if something is lightly armored, this is going to do base damage or total damage. Mark of Anomaly, another one. So this, again, you can now potentially have it stacked 4 times. And then you can go down here for Ashes to Ashes. Every time Ash is afflicted on an enemy, vulnerable status is inflicted as well. So I'm assuming vulnerable means you take more damage overall from all effects. But again, it doesn't say it here as a tooltip, which would be nice. Moving up, you can get another rank of Moth to Flames, which would increase your weapon leech by 5%. So again, you could technically have a total of 10%, which is almost as much as the Technomancer gets baseline. They get 15% baseline before any buffs. And then Leeching Force, activating Immobilize skill doubles weapon leech for 4 seconds. So you could technically now get 2 different buffs that work off leech. You could technically have double weapon leech as well as 45% more anomaly powers when you activate those Immobilize skills. So there's one way of looking at it. Nimble as a Flame decreases the reload times by 20%. Now, like assault rifles, reload time's pretty darn quick. I'm assuming maybe sniper rifles or some of the heavy, like shotguns, maybe this takes longer. So it's mandatory if you want to get to the capstone, so you don't get a choice. I don't know how useful that is, though. Hurt twice as long. Increases damage against elite 10% by 10%, and elites deal 10% less damage to you. That's never bad. Flat more damage. Again, it's only against the hard stuff, but those are the things that are going to be probably difficult. And nice little damage mitigation. Can't complain. Then you can, enemies afflicted by Ash receive 30% more damage, which again, if you're going Ash build, great. Or you can reduce Immobilize skills cooldown by 15%. Now again, my recommendation would be, if you're going to be getting all these extra nodes, where you proc all these special effects for using Immobilize skills, that would be one that you should definitely get. Maximize your reduction. So across these 2 nodes, you can get 30% reduction. That starts to add up. And then the capstone, activating Immobilize skills increases your weapon damage by 60% for 10 seconds. So Ashbreaker, aka Ash Immobilize build focus. If you go in a singular focus, that's basically the feel of this tree. Okay, now let's look down the Firestorm tree and also the crossover trees going from middle to top. So if you go down Firestorm, you're gonna get Magma Golem, increases your health by 10%. And again, similar to when I looked at Technomancer, the middle tree also seemed to be very tanky when it comes to like increasing health. So I don't know if that's going to be the same across all of them, but it's starting to look that way. Increase your skill leech by 6%. So again, unlike the top way that increases weapon leech, this is leeching more off the skills you use. Reduces ignite skill cooldown by 15%. So again, different focus. The top one is immobilized. This one is looks like it's going to ignite. Mandatory increases your health by 10%, so now you're at 20%. Now if you go up to the crossover skill, you can increase your armor piercing against marked enemies by 30%. That's pretty darn good, especially since you're going to be marking everything. Another crossover effect is sidearm adapt. If you're going pistol or revolver focused, those will increase by 12%. I have a feeling this is going to be something that people maybe that want to cross over from Ashbreaker down to Firestorm will be like a mandatory one you got to put in. But I don't know how hot I feel about spending an extra point just for that 12%. Maybe. See how good pistols are. And then decreases weapon recoil by 30%. That could potentially be good depending on how bad the recoil is on a gun. Early levels, the recoil doesn't seem to be that bad, but who knows. Next, you got a choice of Master of the Armor. Increases your armor by 20%. Want to get extra tanky. Or Burn Afflicted on enemies deals 20% more damage. So it looks like you at least have Ash, Burn, and Vulnerable so far as far as debuffs and effects that the Pyromancer applies. Again, a mandatory extra increase in health by 10%. So if you've been following through the middle line, you're at 30% already. Next, you can be gifted, increase weapon damage and anomaly damage by 5%. That's pretty solid. And or increase your resistance by 20%. So again, I'm not sure if resistance is like resistant to effects like burn and freeze, or if it's like an overall damage reduction. So not 100% sure on that quite yet, but there's that. Next, again, another mandatory Magma Golem. So again, this will put you at 40% going on this path. Extra health. Distant Flame increases anomaly power by 2.5% for each unlocked Magma Golem class node. So again, at this point, you've got 4 of them. That's 10% extra anomaly power, and it keep going down. You're going to get at least 1 more. Bottom one is All Guns Blazing. Increases weapon damage after any skill activation by 20% for 7 seconds. So this is pretty amazing, because this could be something that you could reach for if you really push it, coming from the top or the bottom or baseline, and it affects any of those skills. And 20% weapon damage is nothing to sneeze at. Again, you would have to sacrifice a lot, so may or may not be super viable, but could be. Next, Unquenchable increases your skill leech by an additional 6%. So again, saw it here, saw it here. So you have an option of having 12% already if you go down the center, or you could just really focus on the burn. Burn afflicted enemies last 20% longer, so that's an option. Increases your health by 10%, another Magma Golem. Oh, also a note on this, just affected burn duration. I'm guessing on lower difficulties this won't be as useful because things are going to die faster, but on higher world statuses, where things will actually live long enough to get the burn effect, this might be okay. So my recommendation probably would be on not to choose this initially at lower levels. Maybe consider it later, but I would probably take the skill leech 99 out of 100 times over this. Next, you got another chance to get skill leech increase by 6%, so you could now be at 18% potentially. And activating Ignite skills increases your armor by 45% for 10 seconds. That's significant. You stack that with the other armor buff that's here, that's 20, that you could have 65% armor buff whenever that's up. Next, you have Fuel for the Embers, double skill leech when under 30% health. So again, if you've picked up all the skill leeches, this would be 18%. This would get you up to 36% life leech, skill leech. So really nice way of skills, especially if you get your cooldown reduction high. Just really keep you alive even when you're not killing enemies. Enemies afflicted by burn receive 15% more damage. Nice if you're spreading that a lot. And reduce Ignite skill cooldown by 15%. Again, looking at some of these synergies or activations really are big to get these big buffs. I could see this being huge. And as a reminder, at the very beginning of this tree, not coincidentally, I'm sure, is the first one. So if you go all the way down the tree, you can get 30% cooldown reduction just from these, and I'm sure you can get it from here as well. Capstone is Magma Elemental. Activating Ignite skills increases your armor piercing by 45% and resistance piercing by 45% for 10 seconds. As far as literally melting enemies, this is ridiculous. So powerful, especially if you can get that cooldown down, constantly get this. This is going to be, interestingly enough, not only a really tanky tree, but against enemies with high armor and high resistances, just potentially overpowered. We shall see. Okay, so that's the Firestorm build, or line. Now let's look at Tempest, as well as the crossover that connects that Firestorm. So, first node, Archmage increases your anomaly power by 6%. Okay, right off the bat, buffing your skills. Now you have an option. World Ablaze, reduce the cooldown of your explosive skills by 15%. You can kind of see where this is going, and I'm going to take a wild guess at the very end there's another 15%. Wow, I'm psychic. So you can get 30% eventually, looking ahead. But so 15% onto specific explosive skills, if that's your jam. And or you can choose Mark's accumulation. Increases your skill damage by 10% against marked enemies. So this is big, especially if you maybe don't go for Ash build, or you don't go for a build that's the burn elements as much, but you really just want to make sure you get as much damage to mark targets, which again, mark gets applied by any skill you hit something. Not weapon damage, but by skill damage. Increase your anomaly power by an additional 6%. So again, right off the bat, if you go down this way, you already have 12%. Now, if you cross over going north, you get gifted. So again, this is that 5% to weapon damage and anomaly power. 5% each. That's pretty solid. Can't complain. Love Wildfire. Decrease all your skill cooldowns by 10%. I can't state how awesome this is, especially since it's just one away. So remember that in Firestorm build that I just talked about, you could basically get 30 plus 10, 40% cooldown. For, in this case, it's going to be Ignite skills. You can almost as easily get it to this element. So you can make explosive skills have a 40% down rate, assuming it's additive. It's going to be quite a bit harder to get it if you go the top Ashbreaker build. Theoretically possible, but if you really push all the way down, you're probably going to give up some of these other top nodes, so keep that in mind. But again, very good. And then another one off to the side here is Trial by Fire. Enemies affected with burn receive 5% more damage. It's okay, but because the fact that it's not just all damage, it's 5% only to burning, this is probably one, maybe a bridge too far, or a node too far, as we would say here. I would probably not go for that. So next you got, let's take a look. If we're going back down here, I don't know if I mentioned this one before. I'm going to mention it just in case maybe I didn't. So if you go down from this mandatory Archmage node, you get with fire and rifle, activating explosive skills increases your weapon damage by 45% for 10 seconds. So again, that's a huge weapon damage. Then you have an option of, again, stacking Mark's accumulation again, increasing your skill damage by 10% against marked target enemies. Or Strength of the Flame, reduces elite damage against you by 10%. So even though this is maybe not as tanky as the central path, it can help out there. Archmage, again, another 6% anomaly power. So again, if you track, you're now at 18%. Now we can cross over to the north, which would get Extinction, increases damage by 20% against enemies below 30% health. So this is kind of like execution damage. And let them burn. Burn afflicted on enemies lasts 20% longer. I already commented on this on the Firestorm build tree. If you're really dipping into this, may be useful. I would probably ignore it unless it's really high difficulty, where the enemies are bullet sponges. Meltdown. Burn afflicted on enemies deals 20% more damage. Again, if you cross over, this makes sense. Otherwise, maybe go with Gifted, which gives you that flat 5% weapon damage and anomaly power damage. That's really great. If you're not going to go for a heavy burn build. Which, again, it's possible that if a bunch of your abilities, if all three of your abilities use burn, I mean, you're going to pick that probably. Another 6% to basically skill power. So we're now at 24%. You have the option of Fire and Anomaly. Activating explosive skill increases your anomaly power by 12% for 10 seconds. So again, not as big of a buff as the weapon buffs. But again, if you're going to be going all in on using explosive skills, this is just another way to make subsequent explosive skills more powerful. All right, then you have an option of unquenchable, increasing your skill leech by 6%. Again, and if you go down this bottom line exclusively, this is the first time you have an opportunity to do that. Notice there are no other, so far, no other leech abilities whatsoever for weapon or for skills. At the bottom, increase your resistance for 20%. That's an option. Then you have another mandatory anomaly power of 6%. At the bottom, you can get Phoenix Nesting. Upon losing all your health, you receive a second chance to return to battle, 50% health, and Phoenix can revive you every 180 seconds. This is an identical ability to half of a capstone on Technomancer, by the way. But coming back to life with 50% health, things go bad, every 3 minutes is pretty amazing. And then Phoenix, your Phoenix will revive you with 100% health, so now it becomes more powerful than the Technomancer ability. It activates, cooldown will be reduced to 135 seconds. Basically 2 minutes and 15 seconds. If you're going to go down this path, might as well get both. That's ridiculously powerful survivability, especially considering this is not a tanky part of the tree. So you can kind of go high risk, high reward, and then hey, you know, you can kind of be a little bit more pushy every 2 minutes or so, and after that you kind of pull back until this comes off cooldown. All right, conflagration mandatory, increases your resistance piercing by 15%. And then you have an option of chasing the chill away. Killing a marked enemy heals you by an additional 12% of your maximum health. So remember, we get a baseline of 24%. So when you kill marked enemies, it's 36%. Now, again, this says, yeah, and it says killing a marked enemy. So I'm assuming this means even if other players kill the marked enemy. If not, again, if it doesn't work like that, then this class I would not play in a group setting. But I'm sure they thought of that. It would be crazy. If somebody wants to confirm from that has played this class enough, or has played it more significantly in a group, tell me if this works or not when other people kill. Leave a comment below. All right, next. Flames that burn twice. Increases damage against elites by 10%. That's always nice. And you had one previously that increased by 10%, and you also took 10% less, so you can get 20% against elites. And then you have a choice to increase your skill damage by an additional 10% against marked targets. So this is really starting to add up. You'll see 10, 20, 30% now. And or you get reduced explosive skill cooldown by 15%. Again, this bottom one seems like a gimme for spamming these abilities, especially since a lot of these little mini capstones are all about spamming these abilities. And then finally, Capstone, Grave Ablaze, increases explosive skill base damage by 30%. Bam. It's just great. Especially if you're spamming them. High DPS output, very straightforward. Again, this bottom one, high risk, high reward build. And you can cross over into tankiness a little bit. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Pyromancer class. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive. If you have questions, leave them below. And hopefully you like this content. If you do, make sure to like and subscribe to see more Outrider content from me. And until next time, guys, this is Leroy Gaming. See ya in the next video.